So what makes April 29th, 1992 special? Well, let's go back to this video game here, Street Fighter 2. Very revolutionary, has one of 8 characters that you can play as. You duke it out. They say it's a tournament style, but you don't have one guy going up against 8 guys in a single tournament. Now, normally video games are designed for you to play for maybe 5 to 10 minutes at a time, wasting your quarters. But this one allowed you to last a little longer. Why? Because a majority of the money made here is by you going up against other players and not against the computer. So for those of you that visit Vegas, it's the difference between playing the slots, blackjack, and playing Texas Hold'em or any poker game. So anyway, once you beat all the 8 guys here, 3 bosses show up. And these guys will wreck you if you're not careful. Take a look at this Mike Tyson looking guy. You figure, he's just a boxer and I'm a karate guy. But then he just keeps punching you and wailing on you. Look at that, one punch took away a quarter of my life, and then he just keeps charging at you, and if you're not careful, you get knocked the out. So how do you top a game like this? What can you improve on this? Well, they did it. A few months later, maybe a year, I don't know. Been a while. But I remember that this game came out. Street Fighter 2. Same thing, only now it's called Champion Edition. And they really raised the bar on this one. Much like this company always does, Capcom. So now you get to choose from not only those 3 bosses, but that final boss right there, Bison. A lot of Mexicans used to say Mr. Bison just because of that M. But if you could have just imagined playing like one of these guys, Sagat. This is one of my favorites. Look at those long legs. Just keeps wailing on him. And initially when this came out, these bosses, they were just as strong as the first time you played them. One hit from them and you could just take away a lot of their power, life, whatever. So the balance was slightly off. These guys, even though you can choose them and be just as strong as the bosses from the first time around, it wasn't impossible to beat them. It just kind of changed the way you play the game. So you raise the bar, well, you got to raise your fighting skill. Or at least mentally, not like you're doing this in real life. But the cool thing is, some of these bosses actually had new moves, because some of these guys didn't have throws, like Sagat or Balrog. But then they also added another awesome feature. So not only were you able to choose these bosses, but now, if you choose one guy, your opponent can choose the exact same guy too. So now you have a mirror match. And then you have a wrestling match like this guy, Zangief. Pretty powerful. Slams and everything. And then, from what I can tell, this was also the beginning of having video game tournaments. So no matter which way you went, if you choose a guy, your opponent can't say, hey, that's my guy, I can't choose him. No, now they allow you to have a mirror match. And of course now even more quarters are wasted. Now, one of the cool things about this is that now you can also have matches that didn't exist before, like having 2 boss characters here. So instead of having this boxer wail on you, you can now sick Vega on him and just have him scratch the crap out of him. Kind of like right here. Yep, till he's gone. And then lastly, who can you choose but M. Bison himself? And you beat the crap out of him. So yeah, he's beaten his own butt. And also, like you can see here, pretty unbalanced. You use his super moves, you use his strong ass hits, and yeah, it's kind of like the first time around when you fought him and he cheeses you using moves that you don't charge. Oh yeah, much later on in the series, this game cheats you. It's pretty obvious. Now originally when this game came out, Champion Edition, a lot of people chose Bison, But then they realized how crazy he jumps and they really couldn't perfect his moves. And not a lot of people chose him. They just kind of stuck with what they know. So they choose their Ryus, their Kens, their Chun-Lis, and just kind of stuck with whatever they know best. Now me, on the other hand, I'm open to change. So whenever there was time to come up with a strategy for this, I pop in the quarters, learn how to use all his moves, and learn how to counter everybody's. And eventually, I won a tournament. But that's another story for a later time. So now you had these generic endings. They didn't have the same endings like the other characters. It's like they just slapped on a Photoshop and threw in some letters, put some guys on the bottom. Every one of the bosses had an ending like this, only with their picture at the very top. And they also added another Easter egg. I wasn't able to show it because I'm old now. I'm not really as good as I used to. But if you can beat the entire game without continuing, and I think without losing a round, so if you run it perfectly, you get this special ending where during the credits you can see, I think it's Ryu, Ken, everybody just duking it out again, kind of like a recap. So I told you that story to tell you this story. So you know how I explained that I used to take the bus because I used to live really far away from my school? Well, on this particular day, April 29th, I decided to spend that money on playing Street Fighter 2, Champion Edition. And since I was pretty good, I didn't really lose, and it took me a long time to get home because I still had to walk. So I said goodbye to my friends. I told them, see you tomorrow. Hey, see you in class, whatever. Took off and just started walking. But really weird trip on this instance. So I round the corner, and what do I see? Well, I see chaos. I see a scene like you see right here. Now, nothing big during, normal days. You see cops, you see black people, Hispanic people, but on this day, a lot more than your usual amount. Saw them kind of like right here, pushing, shoving, and I just knew that I needed to get the heck out of there. So, much like this lady over here, just a bystander, it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but as I make my way home, I start seeing some smokestacks, and I start hearing sirens, and here I am, walking around like a dumbass, not knowing what the hell's going on. So, I just keep going home. And so, since I wasn't in the best of shape, like I said, I would run till I can run no more, and then I just start walking to catch my breath. And then once I catch my breath, I just keep running again. And I did this till I can go as far as I can, obeying the traffic laws, okay? But it's just kind of weird that I'm thinking like something's going on. I'm starting to see smoke all over the place, and I really got to get home. Because, once I get home, and I get told, where the hell have you been? I see the TV. And I see scenes like this. People overturning cars. Stuff being set on fire. And just total chaos going on. And as it gets darker and darker, you start hearing things. And I'm not talking about like I hear things in my head, no. I'm starting to hear things just outside my window. And it's interesting here that you see the Mexican flag right there, because from what I know, it started off as a big united front. Hey, all people of color, let's go wreck stuff. But then it really became a race war as the days went on. And I say days because people say, oh, the riots only lasted one day. But no, it actually lasted around 3 days, maybe 5 tops. And as I look back now as a grown adult and reading and learning more about this, the more I just understand, because back then I really didn't understand what was going on. And you see these poor store owners that they didn't know what was going on, and here they are trying to save their business. And some families were also displaced, because you see these kids, they lived upstairs from that store. And in the following days, you find out how some of these businesses survived. They would put a sign that said that the business was black owned, black operated. But here's the big funny kicker. Do you really think that all these businesses were black owned? Hell no. They just did it. And then you find out that one of the hardest hit people were Korean businesses. And again, that's another story for another time. You guys can do the research on your own, but it's just this big, convoluted mess. Yeah, I know I used a big word there, didn't I? But even other businesses that were hit, they were also black owned. You have this guy over here about to be interviewed. His mother's business was lost. And not just that one, but another store that they owned elsewhere. Both of them got burned to the ground. And as he says, like, at that point, not much you can do. But what we can do from that point and this point forward, because similar stuff has happened in this last year, is we can learn to be better to each other. Learn to be better to our communities. And no matter what your profession is, we just need to be better people to each other. And on a side note, this was the first time, but not the only time, that I'd been up for over 24 hours to guard something, to watch something, to take care of my family. And what happened when we came back to school? That was also one of the weirdest experiences. So we all show back to school, and there was this like really weird silence. And whenever we tried to talk about it, and no joke, we tried to talk about it to each other, they would tell us, hey, shut up, stay quiet, just do your work. The teachers just didn't allow us to talk about it. And to this day, I've only spoken to one former classmate that I've been able to find. And it's interesting that I just really couldn't find an ending to this video, and this is what kept me, I guess, in writer's block. Because there really is no end right now for this situation. And all we can do is just continue to press forward. Continue to try to be better to each other. And just like Bill and Ted say, be excellent to each other. I really love that phrase. And so, at this point, thank you for watching. Take a look at the documentary, and I wish you all a very good day today.